Good evening. This is the Zoning Board of Appeals meeting for the town of Newcastle, July 29th, 2020.
First case tonight is Hilton. Are they with us?
I'm here.
Yes, I'm here. This is Andy Houghton.
And I'm William Simeoforides, the architect.
Okay, if you could go ahead and tell us about your application, what it is you're applying for.
Okay, Andy, if you don't mind, I'll just explain quickly.
Please
So
do.
what we're proposing is a roof, a portico over an existing front concrete and stone entry. There's no roof on it now. We're going to enlarge it to the north, to the right side, about 1 foot 8 inches. When we add the columns and the roof, it's going to get a little tight. So we're expanding it. The width we're expanding by just under 2 feet. But the rest of it stays the same size, and we're adding, as I mentioned, a roof above. The existing entry concrete entry is already non-conforming. It's beyond the 60-foot setback, and we're really not going beyond it except for the roof. And because we're extending it to the left, it does encroach maybe a few more inches. But again, that's required in order to get the required width with the columns in place. What we're asking for is a 5-foot front yard setback for the proposal.
Other than the architectural elements, what is accomplished by the change?
The benefit?
Yes.
Well, for one, it provides cover for the entry. Right now, the entry platform is falling apart. I don't know if you have the pictures handy, but it's pretty much the corner is gone. There's no railing, and we need to rebuild it anyway. And the way you approach the house, the garage and the driveway are pretty much one level below the entry. And by adding a roof to this, it just gives it more prominence, and they know how to enter the structure.
Carrie, would you know if there's anyone in the queue who wishes to speak to this application?
There's nobody in the attendees list. I don't know if anyone else that's logged in is interested. You can raise your hand or type into the chat box. I don't see anybody.
Okay. Does anyone else on the board have any comments or questions for the applicant?
No.
No. I then move that we close the public hearing.
I'll second.
All those in favor, Jackie?
Chairman Kenneth Cooper,
Yes.
Anthony Giardina,
Yes.
Harvey Bonaparte,
Yes.
Michael Nolan.
Yes.
Okay, I'll make a motion. I move that the Hilton application for a 5-foot front yard variance for the construction of a portico be approved for the following reasons. This will not create an undesirable change in the character of the neighborhood. The applicant has been thoughtful in their approach. The variance is not substantial. There will be no adverse impact on the physical environment. This is a pre-existing non-conforming lot. So the difficulty is not self-created. You'll have 6 months to start, 1 year to complete, and we will require a foundation survey prior to framing. Is that time frame achievable by you?
Yes.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely.
I'll second.
Chairman Kenneth Cooper,
In favor?
Anthony Giardina,
Aye.
Harvey Bonaparte,
Yes.
Michael Nolan.
Yes.
Thank you. You have your variance.
Thank you very much. Good night.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Oh, they're not on this.
Next case is Rickles.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi. You guys can hear me okay?
Yes. So the way this works is you tell us why you've come before us this evening.
Right. So, I mean, I don't want to, I'll spare you some of the longer details. It's fairly frustrating. This is a project that I think I applied for in 2015 or 16. It's been a long time. It's been completed for several years. And, I'm not sure what prompted me to call the town and double check that I'd received a certificate of occupancy. I think, we're thinking about doing another project down the road. And wherever it was, last year I called to check on my CO and I found out that we didn't have one. And, that made me call my architect and my builder and find out what's going on. And, nobody had applied for it, dropped the ball. And, lo and behold, we had never done our final survey. So, earlier this year, or actually later last year, I called my original surveyor to have him come back and do the survey so we can, finish up this process. And this guy's out of business. So I asked my architect to recommend another surveyor, and he does. And I got that surveyor out this spring, and he measured, and he found out that we had built our patio about 1.5 feet over the original variance line that we had received, several years ago. And so we're asking for another variance to rectify that. But I think at the end of the day, what happened is the original surveyor measured wrong to the tune of a few feet. And I recall that when we were building the patio, the original layout changed, and the builder suggested that we make it a little bit bigger because we had several feet to play with respect to where the variance had been mapped out by the original surveyor. So I said, okay, if we've got the room, why not? So we decided to do that, and it turns out that the first guy just measured wrong. So that's sort of where we are right now. I think that my architect had documented all this for you guys. You should have all the pictures and measurements of what it currently is as built. Obviously, we sent letters to all of our neighbors originally, but also again informing them that we were going to request an additional variance to allow the project to clear. And we heard from actually our closest neighbor that she was totally supportive and happy, and hopes that it goes smoothly. So that's kind of where we stand. Do you guys have any questions? I guess maybe the other thing I would point out is this is a patio in the rear of the house. The back of the property is the Girl Scouts property. So there's no houses or anything back there at all, just woods and deer and the occasional coyote.
And the guns? Do you hear the guns?
Do I hear the guns? They're far away, but yes, I can definitely hear them. That gun range, I don't know where it is in proximity to me, but it's pretty loud. Sometimes I don't know what they're shooting over there, but sometimes it's very loud. So sometimes they bring out the bazookas, I guess.
They're shooting Boy Scouts.
I hope not.
Carrie, I don't see anyone in chat.
No, I don't see anybody either. If anyone is interested in speaking, you can type in chat or raise your hand. But since there are no attendees, I don't think we will get anyone.
Was Picarillo your original architect and your subsequent architect?
So we originally had an architect named Stephen Tilley, and he took us. I believe he actually took us through the zoning board, and we wound up parting ways with him before we started building. We brought in Michael to alter some plans and to take it to through construction. And maybe that is part of some of the uncertainty in the measurements. I don't think so, because Michael obviously reviewed everything and he saw where the variance was.
Right.
And the original plans were within the variance, right? I mean, that's how we came up with what the variance should be. So I'm like 99.9% sure what happens is this guy just measured wrong, and we assumed he was measuring it right, and we built the patio an extra foot.
Right. Okay. Anything else by any member of the board? Any questions?
No.
No. I move that we close the public hearing.
I'll second.
All those in favor? Jackie?
Chairman Kenneth Cooper,
Yes.
Anthony Giardina,
Aye.
Harvey Bonaparte,
Yes,
Michael Nolan.
Yes.
Who'd like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion
Go ahead.
that we approve the application of Rickles Aaron Rickles, 600 Douglas Road, for a 19-foot variance in a rear yard setback for the purpose of legalizing the location of a patio. The applicant has shown that the patio was placed there by in compliance with a variance that we had originally granted. However, the measurements were slightly off, and unbeknownst to them, the property did not have a final C of O, which he discovered, and upon discovering it, he's applied to correct the situation. There's no neighbors have indicated any opposition to the application. The granting of the variances will not create an undesirable change to the character of the neighborhood or a detriment to nearby properties. The benefits sought by the applicant cannot be achieved by any other means. The requested variance is not substantial and will not cause an adverse effect to the environment or the neighborhood. For these reasons, I move that we approve the application. I think everything's in place. We don't need anything else.
You're satisfied with the final survey you received?
I am, sir, yes.
Okay.
And I'll second that.
Chairman Kenneth Cooper,
In favor?
Anthony Giardina,
Aye.
Harvey Bonaparte,
Yes.
Michael Nolan.
Yes.
Thank you. You have your variance.
All right, thank you, everybody. Have a great night.
You too. Good luck.
Okay. Kingfisher Philanthropies.
Good evening, everybody. John Kirkpatrick again. Nice to see you all. Nice to be here. At your last meeting, we were faced with a significant number of questions and comments from your board and from your staff, and it required us to go back and prepare a very significant set of answers to all those questions and comments. The clients are with me here tonight, John and Laura Damaris. They have retained, in addition to our existing legal team, the law firm of Hockham and Tortorella and Weckstein. Adam Weckstein is on the call tonight, and Adam has done all of the very significant research on some of the issues, such as our rights to use the easement to access the parking area that we've shown, the fact that the Americans with Disabilities Act doesn't apply, and others. We seem to have answered most of those issues. There still are a couple of little things remaining, which have been shown in the reports that you've gotten from your town engineer, from your town planner, and now from your environmental consultant. We have in the town planner's memo a suggestion in item number 12 that this might be the time to refer to the planning board. There are, as you've seen, quite a few issues here. One of them is, should we merge the 3 lots? My clients, I've checked with them, they have no objection whatsoever to merging the 3 lots. They're simply looking for the easiest way to do it. So consequently, what we would appreciate is if you would refer us at this point to the planning board to get their input on that issue and any others that they see before you move forward any further with this application. In that regard, I'd like to note that also from Hockerman, Tortorella, and Weckstein, we have Jerry Tortorella, who, by the way, has the distinction of having been the attorney representing the original applicant. She is the one who obtained the subdivision approval and started all the completion requirements before there was this unfortunate bankruptcy. But before we get into any of that, and of course, we're happy to answer any questions, Mark Tulis, who's also on this, wanted the opportunity to say a few words. I'm sure you know Mark from his years as the town supervisor, on the town board, on the Board of Assessment Review, but Mark also has the distinction of being possibly the only person in town who has actually walked over practically every square inch of this town, very familiar with everything. So let me ask Mark, if you would, to say a couple of words.
Yes, you know, I've been in this town 43 years, both before and after I was supervisor and a county legislator. The one thing that was always important to me was open space. In fact, as supervisor, I was involved in obtaining what is now Warburg Park, from buying the land from Con Ed. I would note that the entire transaction, because of Con Ed's requirements, took us 4 weeks. I also was responsible for the bike trail, the North County, South County Trailway, as well as mountain bike trails throughout the county. My point is this, and I'm not a planning lawyer. You guys have never seen me. I have not spoken before the ZBA since I left the town government in 1993. I went to county government. I have walked every trail in this town. I knocked on every door when I was campaigning. I biked, mountain biked everything, even always legal. That said, I'm certainly very familiar with all the paths. And I'm gonna focus first of all, we gotta get this moving. I honestly understand that there are technical issues and other issues now, but I got the assessor last year, over a year ago, to merge these lots for assessment purposes. We're already at that point. There's no problem, which is why I strongly encourage this board to refer to the planning board now. Let's get this done already so we can open this up to the public. You know, it's amazing. This town is a wonderful place where we have hundreds of acres of open space, be it Warburg, be it around in the western part of town, Smith Park. We have an enormous amount. And we've always been very aggressive in trying to do what we could to get more open space. And this is what this proposal does. Again, I'm not a planner. I'm not this kind of lawyer. I don't do anything like this. But I'm personally very perturbed at the difficulties. I want to focus on one issue, parking lot. I've hiked all the trails. I've hiked Prune, starting on 7 Bridges, where there is no parking lot. The Audubon property on Kip, no parking lot. Crow Hill Road, no parking lot. Pine Cliff, there was only a parking lot at the top for handicapped spots. No regular parking. It's parking in the cul-de-sac. Now this is going to be on a street. To get to this park, it's not easy. To get to this property, you've got to go down Roaring Brook. Then you got to get on Brandon or James. Then you got to go on Cynthia and the end. This is not going to be a hugely popular area, just like many of our other very remote parks. I don't want to go through the whole thing. It's in my letter. That said, to require disturbance for parking, and the parking will be totally unnecessary. There's plenty of parking in the cul-de-sac. You're looking at how many people are going to be there. My experience is if there's at any given time 4 or 5 people there in the height of the season, I'd be surprised. For example, I go to Warburg Park a lot, well, because I feel it's my park because I got it from the town, but I go for it. I never see anyone. Even in the height of these problems, there were mostly 3 or 4 cars there at the height of the use of the park. So my point is, I just think I understand why people would want, but why create another area for people to hang around? Why disturb? Why create all these extra costs that could be used to improve the park? You know, let's get this done. I mean, I'm not being critical of anyone. I'm not a planner. We have plenty of lawyers representing the applicants here who are much more knowledgeable in this than what I do. But I would urge you to forget about this parking lot when there's going to be no one there. It's a huge cost, and it's going to be a huge disturbance. It's going to be a disturbance, and once you build a parking lot, then there are all these regulations. So that's why I'm here, just to say, let's move this along. Let's get our more open space for the town, which I've been committed to for 43 years. I'm also on the Westchester Parks Foundation. That's all I do is work on improving our parks. And I would ask you to move this along. And I don't want to bore you anymore, but that's my strong feelings on this. And again, you've never heard from me before on anything, and you probably never will again. But this is, I feel emotionally very important, how important it is to get this done as soon as possible. I mean, you know, we've given you thousands of pages of information. There are always issues. Let's get this to the planning board, get back to you guys, get this resolved, finish any of the small issues, except for the parking lot. So thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Can we answer any questions or anything?
Well, John, before we go there, so you brought up the consolidation of the lots. What other issues that have been brought up by the town staff personnel have not been addressed?
They're all relatively minor issues. The town engineer has indicated some design questions. The environmental consultant has suggested that we should add a bike rack. And there was a question about whether we really should need as many people as we originally thought we would have on the property. And by the way, if we've not done it yet, it's our intention to withdraw the variance, which asks for one-time visitation. We're just looking for a variance on the number of people who can be there occasionally. But as far as any one-time group, we're if we haven't already, we're withdrawing that variance. So we're still looking for something relatively small. Happy to do anything further to merge the lots in whatever way seems appropriate. But we're just looking to do it the simplest way. A declaration, whatever. But we'd like to talk to the planning board about what they'd like.
Okay, you'll get your chance. So on the parking lot, do you intend for there to be on-site parking?
It was the original thought of our clients that this was a nice idea. It's really turned into a hell of a mess. They would now very much like to give it up, remove it, and restore the property to what it was before, to, you know, with whatever conditions that the town puts on that. We actually, in response to one of the questions that were raised, we contacted the traffic engineers at the BFJ Planning. You may have run into them before. They have not given us a final report, but they took an initial look at it in terms of how does the traffic and parking compare to building 3 McMansions on these 3 lots. And they came back and, among other things, said, actually, our traffic will be less. But the other was they recommended against the parking lot. They said they thought it would be essentially an attractive nuisance. It would make it too easy for people to come and maybe act inappropriately, teenagers. And they said, why don't you just make it a bike rack, which pretty much fit with what the environmental coordinator of the town said, add a bike rack. So we're looking to make this as easy as we can.
So is that to say that the off-site parking on Cynthia Court is what will be used for this use?
We would like to eliminate any additional parking lot and simply let people park on Cynthia Court.
Okay. What is the issue with the conservation easement? What is your position?
The clients told me they really would rather dedicate a conservation easement to the town, but the town attorneys pointed out to me that the town had actually resisted that in the initial subdivision, and it was the requirement that the land be dedicated to the town and a conservation easement given to the Westchester Land Trust. So the clients have agreed, whatever's easy. If it's a conservation easement to the Westchester Land Trust or a conservation easement to the town, either one, happy to do it.
Okay. Sabrina, is there anything that you would like to bring up with the applicant this evening?
Well, I think the applicant has received my memo. I think that, John, you're representing specific direction tonight that was not in your submission. I think it's important that there is, before this is referred to the planning board, that there is definitive direction that you want to take. That's spelled out. The fact that you're going to combine them, that will give us, an impetus to really identify what responsibilities.
We lost you there for a second, Sabrina.
Yep, sorry. I said that would be, that would help us identify what the other board's responsibilities are. Tonight is the first time that we're hearing that you are going to combine the lots, that you do not want to build the parking lot. The submission that you provided had a lovely rationale as to why parking isn't needed, but yet you provided a response to the town engineer's request regarding that parking lot that is there. So what we'd really like to see is a clarified response with the direction that you are agreeing to take, so that we could take that and process that, whether it be to the planning board for their site plan approval, to the town board, in regards to you appearing before them and discussing things that you may need to discuss with them, whatever needs to be done. If Westchester Land Trust is intended to hold the conservation easement, it would be an unlisted action under seeker, and we would start a coordinated review regarding that. But right now, I don't think that the information you've provided to the town really sets forth the direction that you're speaking of tonight.
But that's exactly why we're saying that we think it would be really helpful. You have to, the Zoning Board of Appeals, have to, before you make any decision, you are required by the code to refer to the planning board for review and report. There's some interesting issues here. We think you might want the planning board's input on as to, does the parking lot make sense? Is a subdivision the best way to do the merger of the lots? There may be other issues they bring up. So we thought that what makes sense at this point is to make the referral. We want to go to the planning board and say, as we've said to you, we're willing to combine the 3 lots. What's the best way to do it? Which way do you want to do it? We have some ideas, but we're gonna take their input. We would like to
Concerns me about not.
I'm sorry, Mark, go ahead.
No, I was going to say what concerns me about, and I understand Sabrina's issue, but on the other hand, we're going to be caught between 2 different boards. And I think we've stated on the record what we want to do going forward. I don't think there's any harm, based on what we've said here, to include that in a subsequent document and then go to the planning board. You know, it's already the summer and we're looking at September, October. You know, I would hope that we could at least at this point try to move it along and do get it to the planning board first.
Let me
finish, if I may. We said what it is that we want to do. We put that in a document. We'll go to the planning board. Suppose the planning board comes back and says, oh, we want you to do the parking lot. I don't think they're going to say that. In fact, I'm sure they're not. But, you know, we're in a funny position. You want us to finalize something with every single aspect that you approve. Then we go to the planning board, and the planning board has the ability to change things. So I'm just saying, can we somehow accelerate the process based on what we've said in the record? It seems like this has been going on an awful long time.
With all due respect, I think that there's 2 purposes to go to the planning board. There's a referral under your special permit to refer to the architectural review board and the planning board. Okay, and that's for their review of your request of the zoning board of appeals. In this instance, there's another requirement because the planning board has retained jurisdiction over the 3 lots that are involved in this process. And that's where the site plan application comes into play. So on the one hand, you're asking the planning board to help you figure out what is the best approach to what you want to do. And on the other hand, they're going to have to review a site plan associated with it. So if you refer it to them, listen, I just want to point out the difference.
Yeah, hold on. Let Sabrina finish, please.
I apologize.
So I just want to point out that I understand on the one hand where you want the referral to the planning board to get their feedback on what it is you want to do through the special use permit. But there's another level of review that the planning board has responsibility with right now with this application, and that's site plan review. And you know they have already seen this in regards to the restoration of the site in the sense of how it was left when it was going to be developed as 3 lots when this property owner obtained the lots. And so what I really want to do is I want to see you get through the process easily too. I mean, we're not trying to be obstructionist by any means, but I'm trying to expedite as much as possible with what you want to do and not leave it up to, months of debate by the planning board who really don't have enough information to understand what it is they're approving.
Sabrina, you mentioned
that we're not at this point looking for the planning board to approve anything.
Right.
We're just looking for their input back to your board.
Right. See, Sabrina, it's 2, if I may, and I'll shut up. It's 2 different aspects that you correctly point out. Number 1 is feedback on the proposal. Number 2 is site plan approval. And again, I'm not the guy to talk to about this stuff. I've been practicing law a long time, but not zoning. So I think that it would be helpful for the process to get to the planning board now on part 1. And if I have to go back on part 2 for this formal site plan, that's fine. But we just don't want to get caught in a situation where we're bouncing back and forth let's go to the planning board, come back to ZBA, finish it off, then get site plan approval. And hopefully I'll get this done by the end of the year.
Let's hear from, if they have anything that they want to add, let's hear from Bob. Bob, was there anything this evening that you wanted to put forth, bring forward?
Yes, sorry, Chairman.
No.
Yes, good evening, everyone. If the parking lot is coming out, all of my comments are predicated 95% of them on the parking lot. Is there any reason for me to go over them, Eric?
Well, I mean, if they want to remove the parking lot, then those comments wouldn't be applicable. You're right, Bob. So, I don't know if the restoration of that parking lot area needs to be part of the application. Then that would be the question. But that's what I think that's what we're trying to get, so that we can refer it and so that we can do the coordinated review, is get that final plan together that spells out all these particulars of the plan. That's all. That's what I think the board and the director of planning is asking for at this point. I don't know how long it would take the applicant to get that done, and maybe the planning board's not going to meet until September anyway. So, it's my understanding. I don't think they have a meeting in August, right? At this point. So.
No, they do not.
I think there's a way to get this done, to get you before the planning board, possibly, in September anyway, but it's just asking you to put this stuff in a plan that spells all this out. And if the planning board comes out and tells you to change it, they tell you to change it.
I mean, even an application, taking the materials you've already put together and having the flip side to it. There was a lot of information submitted this time, but there was not your preference. If your preference is to not provide parking and to remove the parking lot, that didn't come across in your submission. The only thing that was written into the most recent submission was that you would prefer to maintain the lots as single family lots. And now we're discussing that there's no problem with merging them. So I think we just need some definition around what it is you're asking for, and then it can be referred to the planning board. And if you want the planning board's feedback on option A versus option B, once it's clearly laid out, I think that they can do that.
So this is John Damaris. I think I should speak to that, Sabrina, and John Kirkpatrick, excuse me. I made this point at the last ZBA meeting. I've made this point multiple times when I've met with Bob and Sabrina in the past. I have been trying to open this land to public use for 2 years. I've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on consultants, as you can see on this Zoom call, to try to please you people. I don't have a preference. I don't care whether it's the parking lot or not. I don't care whether the lots are merged or not. I just want to open the land to the public. We are trying to please you. I would just like this expedited. I want you to tell us what you want so that we can open it to the public. I don't have a preference. I don't have a plan. I want it to be hiking trails for the people in the community. So let's find the quickest way to get this application approved so that the people in the town can walk on the lot. If you want a parking lot, we'll build one. If you don't, we won't. We don't care. We don't have that sort of preference. So the idea that we will delay this so that we can make a preference that we don't have, we want you to tell us, what do you need so that we can open it for hiking trails? This has literally been a 2-year process. I've told you folks that multiple times. I've met with you, Sabrina, multiple times, and I've told you at each of those, tell me what you want me to do, and I will do it. I just want to make it available for hiking. Let's get on with it.
Right. And John, I understand your frustration, but I have had conversations with you, Laura, and you said that combining the lots was not an issue. We get a submission for this board that is different than that. So I'm not sure where your changes are occurring in your consultants or your legal or wherever it is. I'm just as confused as you are as to what it is, as how this should proceed. to be quite honest with you.
Right, but I'm spending hundreds of thousands of dollars to make free space available for the town, and you're all getting in the way of that, and I would like it to stop. Tell me what you want, I will do it, and let's open this park.
I don't think it's our job to tell you what we want. You have to tell us what your proposal is. Set out your plan in a definitive fashion so we can present it and review it. And if you want to put alternatives in, put alternatives in, but we have to see something material and substantial that we can get our teeth into and that we can forward to the planning board.
We have done that. We have done that on multiple
But
occasions.
you've changed it a few times. So all we're saying is make up your mind, give us your final plan, any alternatives that you want to put in it, and tell us that this is what you've decided you want to do.
We have done that. We said we'll take out Bob Cioli objected to the parking lot. We said we'll take out the parking lot. Sabrina said she wanted the lots merged. We said we would merge the lots. Those are the only two open issues. We've told you in our submission that we will do that. We've told you tonight we will do that. There's no other open issues. Those are the only two issues, and we've agreed to them.
John, can you put that in some type of form that we could submit your final proposal?
Well, we can certainly give you a letter, yes.
I mean, if you get the, if I may, if you get the letter, taking care of those two issues, and then we can get to the planning board in September. And then we can get back to you maybe in October, November. We can get this done by the end of the year. I mean, it's a wonderful piece of property. I don't know how many of you have walked it, but it's a wonderful piece of property and people should be able to get out on it already. I mean, it's very frustrating.
The board's anxious to move this forward also. Tom, is there anything, I don't want to miss giving you the opportunity to bring forward anything that you think is significant?
I have spoken with my colleagues and they expressed my voice in their comments. I'm good.
Okay.
I just want to note one thing, Chairman Cooper. If the parking lot's eliminated, then there would need to be the variance from all required on-site parking. That would, that would be the question is if that's a better alternative than having the parking lot. And I do think that's something, I don't know if the building inspector or Bob or, have an opinion on that, because that's one of the issues we're discussing tonight, whether it's better to have a parking lot or better to have a variance from all the on-site parking that exists. So, I think we do need some clarity on that.
I understand that you're saying you need a variance. That said, there is no legal difference between this applicant and Audubon or Land Trust or anyone else who owns land in this hiking trails in this town, other than of course the town, which is exempt from its own laws. And I understand that. I think we're putting on the record what we want to do going forward. John can provide you a letter. And all I'm asking that we just, stop the dancing around at some point and just refer to the planning board. They may make other changes, start just part one that Sabrina's talking about. We may have to go back to them, but let's just get clarification so we can move this project forward without so much uncertainty.
Would you be willing to decide tonight to make a referral conditional on my submitting a letter to the satisfaction of your attorney that specifies that we will remove the parking, we want to remove the parking lot and we want to combine the three lots?
And that the conservation easement would be given to the Westchester Land Trust would be the other issue.
No problem.
Then that's up to the board and, the planning director, how they want to proceed then.
I defer to the board and whether or not they want to do that.
Can I just say that I would like to see this move forward as well. I think it's a great idea. I feel very disturbed and distressed if the applicant has to be dragged through this for such a long, long time. But there is an issue that I have with the parking, and I don't have a problem with them with the parking lot being taken out. But I have a little bit of a concern about the future. Now, right now, there's no need to worry about a parking lot, according to what Mark Tulis said and other people have said. Very seldom you will see people on these trails. There's not a lot of activity. There's not a lot of cars. But granting a variance for no parking is forever. And in the highly unlikely event that this becomes a super popular site and people start clogging up Cynthia Court, what do we do then? How do we address that in the future? If it should come to pass. I don't think it will, but if it should come to pass, we should consider that right now before we make these decisions.
I don't have any disagreement with that. As my client has said, we're happy to keep the parking lot. We're happy to eliminate the parking lot. The issue at this point, as I understand it, is we need to fish or cut bait. We need to tell you what we prefer, what we're proposing. When it comes back to you, you may say to us, we don't agree. We want you to provide the parking lot. And okay, that's your decision. We will abide by it, of course. But at this point, all I'm saying is we will give you a submission that says, here's our choice, and refer it to the planning board and see what they think. And then it comes back to you.
As I said, if you don't provide the parking lot at this particular moment in time, I have no problem with that. I have no objection to it. But we need to work something out with if we approve and with our approval, that protects us in the future, that gives us an option to say, well, we didn't need it then, but we need it now, so we have to make some changes. And is that, I mean, Eric, you could tell me that. Is that possible legally to have something like that, make an arrangement for that?
Well, Eric, if you don't mind, I would just point out that you have it in your code now, that the planning board can waive the improvement of parking spaces. So I would think that you could do something like that. I'm sorry, Eric, that this is really a question for you.
I think, look, there could be a condition in the approval that if parking becomes, an issue on Cynthia Court, that you may, you could be required to come in to, put on-site parking, on the property at that point, and amend, and seek an amended variance at that point. That's a possible, if you would agree to that condition, and that's a real concern, I think we could probably work something out to that effect.
We would be happy to agree to that condition.
Yeah, it probably would never happen, but just, I'm looking for long-term protection for the people that live on Cynthia Court, that's all. I don't want to see them being stressed or under duress from a lot of traffic when we didn't have the foresight to provide for that remote possibility now. Like when we have a special use permit, when we issue special use permits, we have continuing jurisdiction. But in this particular case, I don't think, I'm not a lawyer either, but I don't think that this is the same as a special use permit. I think once we give you the approval, that's it, we're done. Unless you can tell me differently.
You can feel
it sounds like we have the answer. If you're satisfied, Mr. Giardina, and I ask you if we can move this forward temporarily. It's going to come back to you.
And just one thing I want to clarify for the applicant is, if the board does decide to do the referral under the special use permit now, and then it would have to come back to this board, and then there would be a separate proceeding for site plan approval before the planning board. The planning board obviously couldn't act or couldn't take any action on the site plan approval issue. Just so you know.
Whatever the code says, we're happy to do. We just want to move it forward.
Just to proceed, yeah, right. But I'm just, I don't want it to look like we're trying to make you go to the planning board, go back to the plan, but that's going to have to be how it is, that's going to have to be how it's done. So.
We understand.
You're going to get more bicyclists there than you will get people with cars. It's not easy to find.
Could we move this forward?
Eric, what form should a motion take?
So the motion would be to refer the application to the planning board, subject to submission by the applicant of additional information satisfactory to, the board council and the town planning director and engineer to respond to the issues that we've heard tonight, or to clarify the issues we've heard tonight.
Excuse me, would you want to include the ARB with that referral as well in accordance with the code?
Yeah, we might as well get that done also. Thank you.
I just want to clarify that my understanding is we're going to come back and saying it is our intention to remove the parking lot, and it is our intention, that is our goal, to merge the lots. And it is our intention to give the conservation easement to the Westchester Land Trust. That's a letter. So I just want to make sure that we're understanding what we're submitting is a letter in form satisfactory to the town attorney.
That's really the question. Would it be possible for you to just get a revised, proposed site plan of some sort showing that change? Just so I think for the planning board, and Sabrina, you tell me if you disagree, if it's necessary. I don't want to make additional work.
Listen, I don't want to make them do more work right now. Okay, I think a letter addressing these main issues that have been raised over the past, with this most recent submission, correcting it to what your intentions are, I think would be sufficient. Okay, because you have submitted a lot of documentation, a lot of paperwork. I think that you need in that letter to refer to a preferred drawing, because right now you have a drawing that shows a parking lot. And if you want that removed, then that plan should say, identify it to be removed, for lack of a better, trying to synthesize the intentions that you have in that letter with the material that you're submitting.
No problem.
I think that's your answer, John. So.
Yes.
So we should make a motion.
There'll be a motion to refer to the ARB and to the planning board, subject to the submission of a letter by the applicant clarifying the issues that were raised this evening.
That are acceptable.
And I think.
Go ahead, Sabrina.
I just wanted to note that if information can be submitted electronically, because we are still living in a virtual world, and we will be doing that in September as well. And it would be easier to disseminate to the ARB and the planning board virtually. We will be asking for hard copy for the planning board as well, because we do deliver information to them, but virtually to the ARB.
No problem. We love virtual.
We do too.
Okay, I will make a motion that we refer this matter, the Kingfisher Preserve matter, to the planning board and ARB, subject to additional information that will be provided in the form of a letter clarifying issues to this board. All submissions should be both electronic and paper.
And they would have to be with the approval of the town attorney and the town planning department. Right.
Okay, so be it.
I'll second.
Chairman Kenneth Cooper,
In favor?
Anthony Giardina,
In favor.
Harvey Bonaparte,
In favor.
Michael Nolan.
In favor.
Okay, we look forward to receiving your letter.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Have a good night.
Good
Have a
night.
good August.
Thanks.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
I make a motion that that the minutes for the June 24th, 2020 meeting be approved.
I'll second.
Chairman Kenneth Cooper,
Approved?
Anthony Giardina,
Approved.
Harvey Bonaparte,
Approved.
Michael Nolan.
Approved.
Are we finished? Eric?
I think so. So interesting, you know.